Hello, everyone. So today we're talking about the case of Mindi Chambers, and this one does involve that of a child. And I feel like we know what happened and we know who did it, and the outcome for this case is just incredibly frustrating. Um, and I'm just I'm gonna save my thoughts for the end, but I feel like it's very frustrating how this happened. But with that being said, all the links that I used for research will be down below, like always. There'll also be a link to a case suggestions form, as well as my other podcast, Sinister, if you'd like to check that out. I don't have a whole lot of information on this case, but what I do have, I'm obviously going to tell you about right now. But it is incredibly upsetting, so I'm just letting you know. But like I said, we're talking about the case of Mindi Chambers. And Mindi was last seen in Tempe, Arizona on October 19th, 1982. She left her home in the 2100 block of East University Avenue and walked her two stepsisters to school. When her sisters returned home, Mindi was gone and the front door was open. There were no indications of a struggle, and her purse, her ID, and her other belongings were left behind. The last known person to have seen her was a clerk at the Circle K convenience store on the corner of University and Price. The clerk saw her make a phone call and then leave. The clerk said a green and tan station wagon pulled into the parking lot and the driver grabbed her, pulled her into the vehicle, and drove off. Mindy's mom, Mary, was murdered in 1968. She drowned in her bathtub in her apartment in Yonkers, New York, and Mindy was 2 at the time. Police suspected her dad, Alan, in Mary's death, but he was never charged. Mindi lived with her grandmother and then an aunt while Alan was in prison on an unrelated charge of assault and rape. When she was 7, he was then released and he took her back into his care. And this really upset me. So, her mother is murdered, unfortunately. He is serving time for unrelated charges of assault and rape. And she's living with other family. And when he gets out, I don't know if the courts allowed this or if maybe the family just let it happen. But the fact that Mindi was allowed to go back into his care after he had assaulted and raped someone, I don't care if it had nothing to do with Mary. I don't care if it had nothing to do with Mindi. I don't care. Um, this man is disturbing, and I don't think that he should have been around his 7-year-old child. So I don't know if the courts allowed him and thought that it would be a good idea. I don't know if the family just didn't care and let him around her. Whoever's fault it was, I think they made a poor decision, and it's really upsetting. But unfortunately, when she was 7, he was released and he took her back into his care. Mindi was a student at Mountain View High School in 1982, and 3 days before she vanished, she had told police that Alan had been molesting her for 5 years. So CPS put her in the care of her stepmother, who was in the process of divorcing Alan. That is when Mindi would disappear. But no one would report her missing until 1995. So she graduates high school in 1982, She tells police that her father, who has already served time for assault and rape, has been molesting her for 5 years. She's put into the care of her stepmother, who is divorcing Alan. And then Mindi disappears. And Mindi is seen by this Circle K clerk of making a phone call and then being grabbed and pulled into a station wagon. Again, this happened in 1982. No one reported her missing until 1995. Her relatives said that she had a history of running away, and they thought she had simply walked out of her life to escape her problems. Regardless if she had a history of running away, she had all this going on. And even though she has a history of running away, why is it more than 10 years later you finally report her missing? That is something you should have done immediately. Like, yeah, okay, you can call the police and say she does have a history of running away, but this is currently happening. We think there's something weird going on. Why do you wait over 10 years to report her missing? Not the grandma, not the aunt, not the stepmom. I already know that Alan wouldn't report her missing because he's being accused of this. But the stepmom, who she is now into the care of, nobody reports her missing for over 10 years. I think that is just absolutely bananas and absolutely ridiculous that nobody bothered to do anything. And instead of, reporting her missing, they just like, oh, she just wanted to get away from her problems. She told someone about her problems. I don't know why she would just walk away. It's just really upsetting when I saw that. Well, CPS dropped the investigation into Alan after she vanished, and Alan would die in 1994, so a year before she would even be reported missing. Foul play is suspected in her case after all these years, but it's unclear if police suspect Alan. But her sisters say that Alan drove a car just like the one that took Mindi. So the green and tan station wagon that clerk saw, her sisters say that he had one just like that. Even though that foul play is suspected and I even think that something happened to her, I do have a description if anybody remembers seeing her around this time. She had sandy blonde hair, brown eyes, and she had an orthodontic appointment when she was going to be going missing. She was 17 at the time and would be 59 now. She stood at about 4'10" and 86 pounds, so she was tiny. She was tiny, tiny. Anybody with any information is urged to contact the Mesa Police Department at 480-644-2211. I think it's fairly obvious what I think is going on here. I think someone, even before all this happened, when she was only 7 years old, someone failed her so miserably when they allowed her to go back into the care of Alan, a man who assaulted and raped someone else. They allowed the child to go into the company of a man who has already shown that he does vulgar things. I don't know why anybody thought that she wouldn't be the victim of something. And so, just before she's about to graduate, she tells police that she's being molested by her father and has been for 5 years. And then she goes missing, but she isn't reported missing for well over 10 years. A year after Alan is dead. I don't know. It feels like someone is protecting Alan. I don't know if maybe he was threatening family or something, like, don't say she's missing. And they thought, okay, now he's dead, we can say something. I don't know. It's just really upsetting because I 100% think, the sister saying that he drove a car like the one that she was taken in. I think Alan took her for whatever reason that day. And then I think he killed her and did something with her body. And I don't know if maybe the family was scared of him or they just didn't care. I think that they waited until he died, reported her missing, and by then, 10 years has passed. A lot of time that would have been needed to find her has passed. And I just feel like everybody really let her down. She told someone what was going on. She was crying out for help and she was failed miserably. And that is upsetting that Alan, in my opinion, he did this and it feels like he got away with it. So let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Do you think he did it? Do you think maybe she was kidnapped by someone else and there was just a similar car between Alan and whoever could have done it? I think it's obvious, like I said, what I think happened, but let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for listening to Mindy's story, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye, guys.